Thank you, Mrs. Farooq, Principal, educators, our guests from the US, parents, and learners. It's really a pleasure to come to the school and to see all the work that you are doing and how you are trying to face the challenges that all of us face in this country right now. I want to say that when we talk about safe schools, you know, it is a given that a home and a school should be a safe place for children. All children should be able to feel that they are safe in a home and in their schools. But unfortunately, this is not happening. What we see in the newspapers, what we hear, and what we actually see happening in our society shows that both our homes and our schools are not really safe places. Now, the reason for this are many. But let me just firstly outline some of the things that I have seen and that I have witnessed, you know. I think that more has to be done about it through your own experiences. You need to come together and tell us about what you are experiencing in your homes and in your schools. But just to give you examples, we have child abuse in the homes. Very many children are being abused, being assaulted, and abused in many other ways, emotional abuse and so on. We also have violence in the community. When your child leaves the school, leaves the home, and travels to school and travels back from school to the home, there are lots of incidences that take place in that space of time when the child is traveling. This is what we have seen and this is what we have heard. There's also now what we find a lack of care, a lack of real love in the community, in the home, and so on. Because of the pressures that many of us face in our lives, the economic pressures, the social pressures, the cultural pressures, and so on, we find that we don't have enough time for children. And I have been reading this book, which is written by a person who works for the UNICEF. UNICEF is a world and international organization. And he carried out research, not just in this country, but throughout the world. And what he says is that 40% of the population of the world is youth, are children and youth, young people. 40% of them are young people. And yet, those are the people who are never consulted. Those are the people who are marginalized. Now, for as long as we do not care, we do not worry about what 40% of our population want and what 40% of our population experience and what 40% of our population should have, we are not going to be able to actually say that we are a good world. And I'm talking here about the international community. So what are some of the things that were identified by this person? His name is Dr. Knudsen, and I'm not going to read it out because I think it's a bit difficult with the wind, with the mic, holding the mic and so on. But I'll just tell you from memory some of the things that he has referred to. He has referred to the way we pollute our environment. What are we doing for the future? What are we doing about the children? Because they are the future of this world. They are the new generation. Are we leaving a world that the new generation will be happy to live in? This is in respect of the environment and the pollution. The second problem that we have, that we as adults are committing, is the whole value system, the social system and the cultural system that we are leaving for the next generation. What are we doing about training our children, about giving our children love, about giving our children the skills that are necessary for them to live in a good way in the world? And when I say in a good way, I mean with values, with good values. What are we doing about promoting that? It's always very easy for people to come and talk and say, this is what you must do. But people don't learn from being told what to do. People learn more from experience, from seeing what other people do. And we often see in our lives that there are a lot of things that we as adults speak about, and we tell you as the third person to do, but we don't do it ourselves. And I want to tell you a little story about Gandhiji. You know, once Gandhiji was approached by a mother who had a little child, about 12 years old or so, who was diabetic. And because he was diabetic, he shouldn't eat sweets. Now, the child, being a child, always wanted to eat sweets. And the mother was very anxious about this, so she brought the child to Gandhiji and said, please tell my child not to eat sweets because it's going to harm him. And so Gandhiji told the mother, okay, come back in 3 weeks' time and then I will speak to your child. So the mother left, and after 3 weeks, she brought her child and came back to Gandhiji and said, you remember I told you about this and you asked me to come back in 3 weeks? Well, 3 weeks are over and I've brought my child again here to you. And Gandhiji said, yes, I do remember. And he called the child and he spoke to him, explained what diabetes is, and told him to stop eating sweets. And it took him about 2 minutes to do that, to explain all these things to the child. And then he asked the child, so will you promise me that you won't eat sweets anymore? And the child promised him. And the mother was very happy that the child had promised him, because she knew that if he promises Mahatma Gandhi, he will not eat sweets again. So she was happy, but as she was leaving, she turned around and said to Gandhiji, this took you only 2 minutes. So why did you ask me to wait for 3 weeks before you could tell him all this? And Gandhiji said that at the time when you brought the child to me, I was eating sweets. So you understood, children, that because he was eating sweets, he couldn't ask this child not to eat sweets. He had to first give up the sweets himself. Then he asked the child not to eat sweets. Now this is what we have to do. We as parents, we as teachers, we as grown-ups, we need to set the example for our children. And that is what the children will learn from, not from all the lectures that we give them. We don't learn from lectures, we learn from examples. And this is what we need to do. Now the second issue that we have found, and that this person talks about, is that in the rat race in the modern world, we have forgotten to listen. We no longer listen. Our children come and speak to us. We just give them half a year. You know what I mean by half a year? We say we heard something, but we didn't even look at the person. We didn't see what he looks like when he told us the story or when she told us the story. We don't look at them because we are busy doing something else. Mothers are busy cooking or fathers are busy doing something else. And they're listening to their children, but they're not looking at them. And they're not giving them the attention that the child should have. And for as long as we do that, we don't really know what the child is saying to us or what the child is feeling. Those feelings are in the face. It's only when you look at the face carefully, you look at the eyes, then you see what is this child feeling when the child is telling you the story. And when we begin to appreciate those feelings, then we can respond to the child appropriately. Now recently, Amir Khan, who is a very popular artist, and maybe a lot of the people who watch Bollywood films would know Amir Khan. He acts in many very nice movies, and recently he started a program with children to see what happens to abused children. And he went out and did a research and then called the people together and spoke about it. And in the story, what he said is exactly what I'm telling you, that people don't listen to their children. And that's the reason why very often an abuse in the home or in the school or in the streets goes unnoticed. You don't know until it's quite late that your child has been abused, that your child is addicted to drugs, or whatever happens in the society, whatever is happening to your child, you don't know about it because you failed to listen. If you had listened the first time that the child came to you, you would have been able to stop it. And you would have been able to do something before the child begins to feel the damage of what has happened. So my second appeal is that we have to listen to our children. And that is what Dr. Knudsen has said, that we as parents, as teachers, as grown-ups, we need to pay attention to the stories of our children. And the last point is that we have to care, we have to love. And it's love, only love, that can change things, that can make a peaceful environment for our children. We can't just say, don't hit, don't fight. That doesn't make a difference. It's only when we are prepared to give love that we get love. Love is a thing that you cannot ask for unless you give it. You have to first give love to be able to get love. Whether it's from your children, from your family, from anywhere. So you have to learn to give that love. And we train our children to give that love to us and to become loving children in the future as they grow. And if that is the kind of society that we all are looking forward to, then we have to begin to learn to do that, to give love to our children. So I hope that we will remember those 3 points that I've talked about. Giving love to the children, listening to the children, and teaching good values to our children. Those are the 3 important things in life, becoming examples of good values to our children. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I know that this is just a little thoughts that I'm leaving behind with you, and I hope that it will expand, and the school together with the parents and the students would talk about it and make it grow so that in your community, in the school, these ideas will grow and become important.